Well, good afternoon, my YouTube friends. It's Margaret here from M.E.s Orchids, and it's Monday. And usually it's Phalaenopsis Monday, but I've decided to do it a little bit differently today. And you'll see this shelf here in front of the south-facing window. I've just turned the humidifier off, and actually it was 60% and it's just dropped down now to 54%. It doesn't take long for the humidity to drop down. But anyway, what I've done is moved some of the Vandaceous ones forward here. And they're all looking very healthy, aren't they? They're all growing. These two are not in semi-hydro, but the other ones you see, they all are. And they're all doing quite well. Well, none of them are dying, that's the main point. And I thought, well, I'll bring them here because I want to, I do like to rotate them round now and again. And I'll show you in a minute if I can reach over here. You see, this big one here, that is the Laelia purpurata semi-alba dunkel, and this is the one that's giving me this new growth, and it's got quite a few roots now travelling across, and I've got this in semi-hydro, although there is not a full water level. I do let it just dry out a little bit. This one here, this is the Tian Mu, and you'll see those roots now are almost again touching that gravel. And I've just had to, on this one, just cut a leaf there. I mean, it's an old leaf, but it had just that area just started to soften. So what I did, I cut it, and the piece that remained on this plant here, I put cinnamon on it, and I'm hoping, you see, that's the pseudobulb there, and I'm hoping that it may well produce that eye from that area. Can you see? I mean, this eye, this is a growth that's developing, so that'll be the next one to put out roots. And I'll just drop that leaf. This is Alicera samurai, something fragrant. And can you see those roots? Now this is in semi-hydro. Those are the first of the roots. I have them, well, not particularly covered up, but I put this stone just to stabilise it, but I found an outer drinks container that sits in here. But Michael once remarked to me, I wonder how shrivelled that main pseudobulb would get. Well, it's quite shrivelled, isn't it? And you can see how it's shrunk back from the tie that I got round it. And so, but otherwise, I mean, this is a monster. I mean, some of the leaves are worse for wear, but you know, this is that new growth, and we'll just have to see. And this is, of course, is the Hulcoglossum subdiflorum. So what I've done this morning is I've made up some nutrient, and I did just an NPK. It was one that was already mixed, and that came out with a TDS of 178, and I used just a very, very, very small amount of pH down, because it was 7.8 I think, and the pH down brought it down to 5.96, so I'm quite alright with that. And I'll just put that little pad there so I don't forget. Right, so I was thinking about these darn pots last night, you know, and then it suddenly dawned on me, well, they were doing all right in these pots. So, because if you remember, potting them up into plastic pots, and I thought, well, really, that's just, there's no air in them anyway. So I thought, well, here goes. So last night I set to again, and I started to chip away, cut away some of these areas. And to get them to sit on the shelf, you see that's a green root in there. You see how many holes I've made? I mean, it's all right on this one because I've specifically brought this up just to stabilise them. But, you know, it had the two little feet, didn't it? Well, I can't, when I've got this basket like this, I thought to myself, it won't stabilise on the shelf. So what I did is I cut the two little feet off. You see, there's that little green root. That's not a green root anymore. These, I tell you, it's a wonder these orchids are still living with me. Anyway, so that's that new growth. So I have to put these two, which is the RLC Pink Diamond, I have to put them in this little outer tray. Okay. So I'm okay with that. I've not got a problem with that. And I did the other one last night as well. And this was the one that didn't have as many roots, but it's got that, it's got those two roots there. And we've got the possibility of that eye producing a new pseudobulb. Okay, and again, you see the roots are alright. What I did was I just gave them some plain rainwater last night. And so these two baskets are fairly open. And if I just stretch across here, just for another little tray. There we go. Now whether they'll stay up here in this area, I'm not too sure yet. It does limit my ability to get those mounted ones at the back. I mean, this is where the Alicera normally sits because it's such a big plant and it's quite stable in this little planter. This is going to go downstairs. I've got to sort this one out. That's the Maxillaria. And bear with me a second. Now these three here have come out of this drainer here. You see I've got one here full of nutrient, and then what I do, I've taken them out of there and I've placed it into there just to let them to drain off. And this is the Procatavolia Jarac Green Star, and this is the one that's wedged together with charcoal. And I've just put some other inorganic media, I think it was grow stones, lava rock, all different things, and that's got that new growth there. Alright, so let's just have a look if it'll let me pick it up. Now these have still got the two little feet on, and I'm going to leave the little feet on these because they will actually fit on the shelf and they won't wobble. Alright, so now Michael didn't seem to think that these roots would be strangled by just squeezing through these little slats. There's one there, you see, can you see? he seemed to think that the damage is caused with this outer pot. So what I did last night, I checked the space between the outer pot and this pot, and it was, well, I mean, I don't do millimetres, centimetres, all that, but it was barely the width of your little fingernail, the white, that pot. It was so narrow, and I thought, well, that's probably what's done it. So what I'm doing with this now and these is when I've watered them and they've drained, I'm going to allow them to stand on the shelves. In actual fact, I might put some of them on this shelf here. I'm going to have to cut that tail off though, because that's got moisture, and if I put it down there now, then it'll drip on something. So if we look at this one, this is the Phalaenopsis hieroglyphica, and so these roots have been hydrated, and you can see now, can't you? And this was the one that, now you see, look there, you see, can you see now? Can you just see in there where I've got a little bit of moisture? Now that could have just a second happened when I lifted that other one out. So I'm going to have to go now and get some toilet tissue. Hold on. So the blink of an eyelid, and that's gone right inside the crown. Right inside that. So what I try and do is to go all the way around the joints. Here, underneath as well. See a little bit of moisture come out there, and then I'll move away because I blow it. Right down the crown. And the blowing will disperse any droplets of water down there. See? You see how I'm trying to dry that area. So that's how easily it's done. That is just how easy it is done. And you may have no recollection actually of actually doing it. So what I'll do in a few minutes, and you see down there, I'll actually, because I can't do and hold the camera, I'll actually just try and I might be able to do it now. Just get a little bit lower in there. I think that's going to be alright, but that's why I say you've got to be so careful with these crowns. And now this is another one that I've watered this morning, and this one here is the Sergio Aria Yukusuku story. And if we have a look at this, you see it's still dripping, this one is. So these can't go on the shelf yet, unless I put the trays. But these won't sit in the trays. Can you see those two little feet there? These won't sit in the trays. They'll wobble. So this is why I've got them in this wire basket here, until I can put them on the shelf. Okay, so there's some roots there, and there's that new growth there, and we see. And we did have a sheath, but you know, I have a feeling that that sheath may well I've blasted because it doesn't look green anymore. Ah dear, never mind, never mind. But you'll see down there, the roots are nicely hydrated now, and there's quite a few of them. And so this is why I brought this particular tray and this, so those little feet can just wedge between them, and until they dry I can leave them in here, because these two now, what I'll do with these is I check to see whether or not they you have to be careful because they wobble a little bit, to see whether all that media is has been moistened. And I've got this little tiny cup here, and I just very gently as I go round. I don't rush it because I'm not wanting to get any droplets of water on these leaves. I mean, that one looks a bit precarious, doesn't it? So let's just put a little drop more water through these roots, and then I just lift this up. See, there's some of the roots, can you see? You probably won't be able to see that. And that will just go in that tray now. There. Now let's have a look. This is the big one. This is the Cattleya Dusky Maid by RLC Bruce Randall. And this fits in that big outer pot. But you'll see where the roots, they're doing nicely. So just gently pour some of this nice fertiliser through these. Notice I'm not going into the crown of the actual orchid. I'm just where there's a space, just watering down there. You see, if I was to put water in there, well, that's where the rhizome is, and I could cause some rotting, which I don't want to do. Okay, let me just put this in here now, and I'll transfer 3 of these. Now this is Gatton Sunray. This is a big one, you see. Gatton Sunray. I've got Chrysotoxum, that can go in there, and I've got this one is Rincatlianthe Fushu Happy Holiday. Will that go in there as well? There we go. So that's the next batch done and being fertilised. Right, so there I've just lifted them and put them on that shelf until they stop dripping. And that's the Catasetum there. That's still in dormancy. I'm going to move that. That's the Kingianum Kingsit Red Splash, which I might move yet. So what we're looking at here now is the Rhynchostylis gigantica peach, and this is the one that I ended up. It came with an enormous root system, and each particular root fell off, and then I was down to one, and it starts, well, it ends there, and it starts just under here. Can you see down there? And I'm waiting for this one to give me new roots. Now I don't know what that is. There. And there's a little bit of a bulge here. But if you've noticed, that leaf there is still growing. And I put this skewer in here, down at the bottom, right in this corner, and there's virtually no moisture. But if you notice there, there's still a little bit of moisture left in that root. So what I might do when I've finished filming is I'll put some of this fertiliser in and keep my eye on that to see in a few weeks' time whether it will actually give me any more roots. And this is another one that is in semi-hydro, and this is my Angraecum sesquipedale. That is the new leaf, and it wasn't as big as this when I put it in semi-hydro. Now this has got to be elevated because this leaf, I don't like it to be, it's sitting in the shelf, you see, and it's bending it over. And let's just have a look at these roots here. If you recall, this was one where I said that I'd got a green tip growing, and that green tip there is extending. And these roots appear to be fine. There's plenty of moisture, and we've got a root there. And the next thing I'm hoping for is maybe, you see there's a root there, I'm hoping to see a green tip on that one, but I'm also hoping I might get some new root growth from here. In one of M.E.s videos, he was disappointed because he got bud blast. Well, look at that one. You remember this Phalaenopsis I said he was cracking open? Well, that one looks as though it's blasted. See? And you'd wonder why. You can see you can see it because normally this wouldn't tilt downwards. Have you noticed? You see they go upwards. That would normally be that way. It'd have the strength to lift it up and it'd be flowering, it'd be opening, but it's not. And that was, of course, sat over here in this area. Is it going to focus? There we go. And I've moved it over onto this shelving over here. And I do believe that's what caused, excuse me, I hope I've not gone too fast, the bud blasting. I mean, this little mini Phalaenopsis, some of these are just dying back naturally, some of the blooms. But you see, we've got buds, and we've got an extension there, and these buds aren't blasting. And here we've got another one, you see. The blooms are fine, and we've got an extension there, we've got an extension there, and these are still in semi-hydro, so I just keep my eye on them. This one, of course, is just in some gravel, and I've put some water, some actual feed in there, only because it's in bloom. That's the little one, showing its pink colours, and so that's fine, and that's got new little buds appearing there. And this one here, I'm not sure, what's this one, what does it say? I think this is a white one with a pink lip, and these have been watered, believe it or not. That one is still blooming. And if we go up here, then there's the one, which is the white one, and those buds are developing nicely now. So, I found, you know, I have this problem, this gap in between with these little buckets, and because this one tipped the tetraspis, and the top layer fell everywhere. This was besides being in the bedroom when one of this one tipped out. So I found this outer pot brilliant, and this is a soup container, and I've got 4 of them as well, so at least I'll only be short of one then. But you see how much, and this is quite sturdy, and because it's a clear outer pot I can see the inner pot as well. And just looking at that, don't know if you'll notice, I've got a tiny little middle leaf, so I'm really chuffed about that. And so they stand up there with the frags, and if I gently move around, to be careful because I've got plants on the floor and I've got my shoes on. That's the Catasetum pileatum yellow giant, and I'm not watering that yet. And I've found another root down here on top of this wood. So one of them is, once it gets down to here, to where these 2 holes are, I shall be watering that then. And this is the Walkeriana. And oh, let me just see if I can. You remember this one, which is the Laelia rubescens, and I told you that leaf had turned yellow. Look, see? And it flicked off, and I don't know how it's flicked, I can't find it yet. But see, that's what I said to you. The end turns yellow. See, I'm probably a bit careful with that one. I think it's not so bad when the end, it's when they turn yellow in the middle. And but can you see that little new growth now? And those roots seem to be doing fine. So all in all, and of course this is you won't see that because of the sun, this is the Sedera japonica, and those buds are extending. So we'll drop back down here, and I think that's about it today. I'm going to decide about these here, whether they're going to go on this shelf here or whether some are going to be elevated up here. And see, I've got plenty of shelving space, and these will certainly fill it all up. And I think that time's come now where it's going to be cutting me off any second. So thank you for joining me once again, and keep an eye on your orchids, check them regularly, and don't overwater them. So from me to you, take care. Bye bye now.